Hello everyone, I'm Dania. Welcome to today's English motivational podcast. So basically in this video we will be focusing on how to start thinking in English. I'm very sure some of you might still be struggling with the idea of thinking in English, as you might find it a bit difficult and challenging to do so. So in this video you will be listening to a conversation between two speakers, Ethan and Sophia, speaking about this particular issue. So basically Sophia is the one who's having some struggles thinking in English, and Ethan in this case shares some effective tips to start thinking in English. And I really hope you find this particular conversation useful, and I hope you start following the same steps as well. And if you have other topics that you want me to focus on, please feel free to let me know in the comments below. Like if you want me to focus more on grammar, maybe on writing, or maybe to continue like with these kind of conversations, just let me know. At the same time, I would really appreciate your likes and comments. Like I would really appreciate your comments, like your feedback on this video. So just share your comments, what you think about the video, and if you like it, things like that. And make sure to subscribe if you haven't, so you won't miss any of the upcoming videos. So in this case, let's start with today's conversation, and I wish you a wonderful day.
Hey Ethan, I've been learning English for a while now, but I still feel like I have to translate everything from my native language. I want to start thinking directly in English.
Hi, Sophie. That's a great goal. Thinking in English can make a big difference in how confident you feel. It takes practice, but it's definitely possible.
Awesome! Could we talk about what it means to think in English, and maybe you could share some tips on how to get started?
Good idea. Thinking in English means understanding or expressing your thoughts without translating. So instead of translating from, say, Spanish to English, you try to understand or imagine things in English right away.
Got it. It sounds simple, but I bet it's not easy. Is there a word for learning to think in another language?
Yes, it's called fluency. Fluency is when you can understand and express yourself smoothly in a language without too much effort.
Oh, okay. So fluency isn't just about knowing a lot of words, it's also about being able to think in the language.
Exactly, and that's what we're working toward.
Are there any techniques that help with thinking in English?
One helpful technique is to use context. Do you know what that means?
Context is like the situation or background information, right?
Exactly. When you learn new words or phrases, try to understand them in context. For example, if you learn the word delicious in a sentence like, "This cake is delicious," it's easier to remember and use it naturally.
So instead of just memorizing delicious, I should connect it to real situations.
Yes, another technique is using associations. That means connecting new English words to things that remind you of them. For example, you could associate rain with wet weather or umbrella.
Oh, I see. These connections make the word feel more familiar. Okay, I like this approach. What else can I try to get into the habit of thinking in English?
Another tip is to label things around you. Have you heard of labeling before?
Labeling? Isn't that like putting a name or title on something?
Exactly. When you look around, try to name objects in English in your head. For example, if you see a table, you think table instead of the word in your native language.
So, I just look around my room and try to label everything in English?
Yes! It's a great way to get your brain used to using English words first.
Labeling sounds fun. Any other tips for getting my mind to think in English?
Try having an internal dialogue. Do you know what that means?
An internal dialogue. Is that like talking to yourself in your head?
Yes, exactly. When you're alone or doing something simple, talk to yourself in English in your mind. For example, if you're cooking, you could think, "First, I need to cut the vegetables." It helps train your brain to use English words.
That's interesting. So even when I'm alone, I can practice by just describing what I'm doing.
Yes. The more you practice this, the easier it becomes to think in English naturally.
What about expressing feelings or opinions? Sometimes I know what I want to say, but the words don't come to mind.
That's common. One way to improve is to practice describing how you feel or what you think in English. Start with simple feelings, like "I'm happy" or "I'm tired," and then move to more complex ideas.
Oh, so I could say things like, "I'm excited to meet my friend," or "I'm a bit nervous about my presentation."
Exactly. Try practicing these phrases daily, so when you feel that way, it's easier to express it in English.
That's a great idea, but I feel silly sometimes talking to myself in English.
I get that, but it doesn't have to be out loud. You can have short conversations with yourself in your mind. For example, you could ask yourself, "What am I going to do today?" and answer it like, "Today I'm going to study and go for a walk."
That sounds manageable. It's like practicing real conversations without anyone else there.
Exactly. Short, simple conversations help your brain get used to forming sentences in English.
Are there ways to get more used to hearing and thinking in English?
Absolutely. Watching English TV shows, movies, or listening to English podcasts can be very helpful. This is called immersion. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I think immersion is when you surround yourself with a language, right?
Yes. Listening to English regularly makes it feel more natural, even if you don't understand everything. You start picking up common phrases, expressions, and ways of speaking.
So if I watch a movie, I could try to focus on phrases or words I know.
Exactly. Try to listen for familiar words and expressions. Over time, you'll understand more and feel more comfortable with the language.
I think what holds me back sometimes is worrying about making mistakes. I don't want to get it wrong.
That's totally normal, but remember, mistakes are part of learning. In fact, the more you practice, the more confident you'll get. Think of it like building a muscle.
Oh, I see. So I should focus on practicing instead of worrying about being perfect.
Exactly. Confidence grows with practice, and the more comfortable you feel, the easier it will be to think in English.
Do you have any tips for practicing daily? I think I need something simple that I can stick to.
Great idea. Try keeping a small journal where you write a few sentences in English every day. It doesn't have to be long, just a few thoughts about your day or how you're feeling.
Like, today I went for a walk, or I studied for my test.
Exactly. Writing even just a sentence or two helps you practice forming thoughts in English. Plus, over time, you can look back and see how much you've improved. It sounds like you have a lot of great ways to practice thinking in English, Sophia. Just remember, it's okay to take it one step at a time.
Thank you, Ethan. I feel like I have some good strategies to try now. I'm excited to start practicing more.
That's great. Thinking in English takes time, but with these techniques, you'll get there. Just keep practicing and be patient with yourself.